Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. If you don't know me, my name is Corey Redderkop. I am the Director of Policy and Stakeholder Relations here at the Burnaby Board of Trade. And we're thrilled to be working with our friends at Scotiabank to deliver today's session, the Sisterhood of Business Women, a workshop for women by women. Our Women's Business Success Network has been a huge part of our efforts over the last 3 or 4 years. We've done a ton of work on the policy side around paid leave, around a whole bunch of getting more opportunities for women to get on corporate boards and in leadership positions. So we're thrilled to have a chance to have a session and some information from our friends at Scotiabank, who are great partners of the Burnaby Board of Trade. They're one of our annual partners who support the work that we do throughout the year. They have a representative on our board of directors, so they're really a key partner for all that we do here at the chamber to support business and business leaders in the city of Burnaby. I do want to make a quick hello to a couple of guests on the line representing our board of directors. Dana Martin from Scotiabank, I think I saw on the line, and Raj Sharma from BC Hydro are two of our board of directors. We have 19 board directors who are all volunteer members of the organization who help steer the organization. So thanks to them. And we have representing in the provincial government, our riding of Burnaby North, we have Janet Rutledge, who's the MLA in Burnaby North. So Janet, always nice to see you. Thanks for joining today. As I said, we're thrilled to have today's session here. I'm coming from our offices in Metrotown in Burnaby, so I like to recognize that we are on the traditional territory of the Hunkaminam and Squamish speaking peoples, and we appreciate the opportunity to have today's session where I am here, and I know you're all dialing in from wherever you might be, but I want to recognize where we're hosting the event today at the Board of Trade. As I said, our Women's Business Success Network has been an important priority for the Board of Trade over the years. We're looking at we'll have another event hopefully coming onto the calendar in November, which we'll be announcing very shortly. But today's session, we're thrilled to have Trish Vale and Aman Graywal from Scotiabank here to share some really great insights, expertise, tips, and tricks for women in business, women-owned business, and it's really a great session we're looking forward to. So you certainly didn't come to hear me drone on any longer, so I'm going to pass it on to my friend Aman Graywal, who's the branch manager just down the road from me here at the Burnaby main branch, to say a few words and to introduce our guest speaker here. So Aman, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Corey. Good morning and hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sisterhood of Business Women workshop. My name is Aman Graywal, as Corey mentioned, and I'm the branch manager at Burnaby, Maine, the Kingsway location. And my team and our focus is providing advice to help clients become financially better off. And today's presentation will center on retirement planning for you as a business owner and as a woman. And joining me today as well is Trish Vale, who is our Regional Vice President of Mobile Advice Team, Sales Team in Western Canada, as well as our two small business advisors, Kaylee Kwok and Herdika Kandaval, are also on the call today. So male or female, shouldn't business and retirement planning be the same regardless of gender? The short answer is no, and we'll get to the whys and what you can do about it over the course of today. We want to bring the focus of retirement planning back to you and discuss how you can integrate your business into your retirement plan. And we believe that focusing on your goals and creating a plan that makes sense, you'll be better equipped and more confident in your future, but both personally as well as professionally. If we can move to the next slide. I wanted to start off today by introducing first the Scotiabank Women Initiative and go through a little bit about the program before we move into our workshop. This is a comprehensive program that's designed to help advance women-led businesses through access to capital, mentorship, and education. This program was launched in December 5th, 2018 across Canada for women-led and women-owned businesses. And the program aims to help Scotiabank better understand and serve women business leaders and be a valued partner in their success. Scotiabank strongly believes that the 3 pillars of the Scotiabank Women Initiative will help deliver meaningful long-term support to our women-led businesses at different stages of growth. And Scotiabank consulted with our clients, researchers, and academics so we can better understand the challenges that women business leaders face today. And this input is what's really helped us shape the Scotiabank Women Initiative, its areas of focus, as well as its objectives. So if we can move to the next slide. So Scotiabank clients who identify as women business leaders are if you're interested in joining this program, please feel free to email womeninitiative@scotiabank.com to make an appointment and arrange with a local branch to learn a little bit more about our program. Existing clients can also contact their client relationship manager or their small business advisors. And if we can move to the next slide, I'm just going to share with you where you can get more information about this initiative. So you can go on to www.scotiabank.com/women-initiative/CA. And on our digital site, there are lots of videos that are helpful around growing yourself digitally, networking online, as well as learning a little bit more about your financial plan. So with that, I will pass it on to Trish Vale to start us off with some housekeeping and kick off our Scotiabank Sisterhood of Business Women workshop. Trish, over to you.
Thanks so much, Amon. As Amon was saying, I'm Trish Vale. I am the Vice President of Western Canada for the Mobile Advice team. I'm thrilled to be here today and thrilled that the Burnaby Board of Trade invited us to do this workshop. This is a workshop. And so there is going to be participation. And I think what we'll do, just given that there's a lot of people on the call, which is fantastic, just to mitigate the background noise, if you want to put yourself on mute, and what I will do is have you participating virtually. So if you look at the top of your screen, kind of over to the right, you see a happy face with a hand in front, because I understand normally you use Zoom and don't use MS Teams very often. That happy face with the hand is actually your virtual raise hand. And so if you click on it once, it'll raise your virtual hand. So you'll get to vote on the answers to questions as we go along here. And if you click it again, your virtual hand will go down. And so what we will do is at the very end, have you open up for questions and answers, and feel free to take yourself off mute at that time. Hopefully you will have received the worksheet that goes along with this workshop. So these are the questions that we're going to be navigating through, and gives you a little bit of a template actually after we're finished the session today to, take it away and, be able to have sort of that beginnings of the financial plan. It's a good segue to mention the dog that's in my background. Obviously I can't mute myself. And so I do have a 75-pound yellow lab who doesn't like crows or mailmen. So if he happens to see a crow or mailman over the course of the next hour, you might hear him barking. So my apologies for that. Today is really about taking you out of your busy lives for an hour, focusing on your business, focusing on your retirement plan, your financial plan, and really looking at the value of advice. We know you're very busy women, so we wanted to make sure that we could dedicate some time to you navigating through this very important topic. And I think it goes without saying that in Canada, small business is really big business. 98% of the employment in Canada is through small and medium-sized businesses. And from a female perspective, 15.7% of the ownership of these small and medium-sized businesses are by women. But what's interesting is the fastest growing small business segment in Canada is women-led sole proprietorship. So while we may only be 15.7% of the owners, that is growing over time with the sole proprietors. I think what's really important when you are thinking about your business is, what are you going to do with your business at retirement? Often we get so busy in the business, we don't think about retirement because it's really far down. But, from a survey that was done, we know that 3 out of every 4 business owners are actually looking to exit their business when it comes time for retirement. So that means sell their business, transfer their business, or wind down their business. What it means is the other quarter are still looking to be involved in their business some way, either as a consultant or, maybe working part-time. For those that are looking to actually sell their business, 33% are actually relying on that to fund their retirement. You don't want that to be the sole source of funding your retirement. Like everything in life, diversification is the key. So we're going to look at that a little more closely in a couple of minutes. And again, with the female bent, I'm going to round up these numbers here, but the average age of the female business owner is 49. The average retirement age is 65. So if you're sitting there saying to yourself, geez, I haven't even thought of a succession plan, I haven't thought of a retirement plan, I've been so busy. You know, if you're the average female business owner, that gives you 16 years, but my advice would be to get going sooner rather than later. Speaking of succession plan, this is where you get the opportunity to use your worksheet for the first time. And so on question number 1, are you the camp that is going to incorporate your business into your retirement plan? So you'll work as a consultant with your business, new business owner. Will you actually work in the actual business? Or are you going to be part of the 3/4 that's actually going to transfer, sell, or wind down? So what I want you to do is in question number 1, tick off what actually pertains to you. And this is where you're going to get your chance to use your virtual hand for the first time. So all of you that are in the camp of being still involved in your business some way, somehow after you've retired, if you want to put up your virtual hand. Okay, what about number 2? You're looking to actually exit your business completely when you retire. Put up your virtual hand. So remember, your virtual hand is the little happy face with the hand in front of it, because I think I only saw one hand go up, and that was with Taz. So I see a couple more hands. So again, if you are looking to exit your business, that would be what 3/4 of Canadian business owners would be doing, and the other quarter of business people would be looking to still stay involved in their business. So when it comes to succession planning, a couple of things to actually look out for, particularly if you are somebody that is going to be passing down the business to a family member. I'd also throw in their friend, or if you're actually looking to sell your business. So first things first, if you're looking to pass down the business to a family member or a friend, really important to have that conversation up front, be on the same page with everything, whether there's going to be money involved, what the time frame looks like. And I'll tell you why. I was doing the same workshop in March of last year in Thunder Bay. There was about 30 women entrepreneurs. And I was lucky enough to be able to do it face to face. COVID was just sort of getting underway. And we got to this question about succession plan, sort of in the back left-hand corner of the room. There was a bit of a ruckus that started to happen. I didn't really know what was going on. And at the end of the session, as I was going around the room asking everyone how they liked the session, if they had any questions, I got to this back table and I said, you know, is everything okay? And it turned out it was a mom and a daughter. The mom is a very successful graphic designer in Thunder Bay. The daughter had been home for about a year. She'd gone off to Toronto to do a degree. I don't know what kind of degree, but she'd come back about a year prior and she was working with the mom. And the mom had automatically assumed that the daughter was going to take over the graphic design business. The daughter was only working with the mom because she couldn't find a job in her discipline with whatever degree it was that she got in Toronto. And so this conversation about succession planning had happened during my session that day. So the good thing was the conversation was had. The bad thing is the two of them weren't on the same page with what was going to happen to the business. So the good thing was that when I asked the mom, I said, when are you looking to retire? She said in about 15 years. So that gave her a good amount of time to figure out a plan B of what she was going to do with her graphic design business. So as I say, if you are looking to transfer your business to a family or friend member, or family member or friend, make sure you're on the same page sooner rather than later. The second thing is if you are looking to sell your business, a couple of things to look out for. Number one, you want to value your business to make sure that is an appropriate value. So 20 years ago, I had two people that approached me about helping them build a business. I had just come out of a master's degree where my thesis was on business planning and execution. So I thought, what a great way to test out all this research that I had done. So I agreed actually to help them build their business, but I told them they only had me for 3 years because I really wanted to get back to the investment business, the financial planning business. And so about 6 months prior to the 3-year mark, I had a friend of mine come in from Price Waterhouse Coopers to value the business so that I knew that I was getting a good price for my shares and that my partners were also getting a good price for what they were going to pay me for the shares. So when you are looking to sell your business, number one is you need to figure out what that value is for your business. And number two, even when you do get a value for your business at the time that you come to sell, a couple of things to watch out for. Number one, there might be an economic downturn, like really what we saw last year when COVID was really taking off. It would have been a really tough time trying to sell a business during COVID. So an economic downturn can affect the value of your business, even if you have had it valued by a professional. And the second thing is you may find that there is a change or a decline in the demand for your product or service. Maybe it's a technological advancement that has happened. So as I say, it is important to get a value for your business. But the second piece of this is that if you do get a value for your business, a couple of things may happen. Number one is there might be an economic downturn. And number two, there might be a change in the demand for your product and service that will affect the value of your business. So as I say, a couple of things to be on the watch when you are thinking of a succession plan. And so this is where question number two comes into play. So you'll remember 2 slides ago when I said 33% of people that are looking to sell their business are looking to fund their retirement from that. And I said, it's really important to have your retirement income diversified, like most things in life. And so this is an opportunity for you to reflect on the different types of retirement income that you're thinking of getting or expecting of getting in retirement. So if you look at question number 2 on your worksheet, this is where I'd like you to start ticking off all that apply for you. So number 1, do you have registered retirement savings plans? Do you have a workplace pension? And if you are a business owner, typically that would be an individual pension plan. Are you somebody that is looking to government sources like a Canada pension plan or an old age security? Maybe you are going to leverage your business. So, we talked about somebody working part-time in their business or as a consultant. It may also be, again, that you're looking to sell the business. So you're looking for a little bit of an nest egg from that business, or you might have agreed with the new owner that they will pay you over, say, a 5 or 10-year period because they may not have all the money up front to pay you for your business, but some way, somehow extracting an income from your business. You also might be a Canadian controlled private corporation, which gives you special tax considerations. So that's a good conversation to have with your accountant if you're unsure. And last but not least, other sources of income. So this could be a rental property. It could also be an inheritance that you're expecting. So as we've gone through and you've ticked off what pertains to you, I would like you to add up how many check marks you have. And what I would like you to do is if you have 3 or more check marks, if you can put up your virtual hand so that we can see how many of you have more than 3 check marks, that would be great. I'm just looking for all the hands coming in. So we got quite a few hands, which is terrific. Because as I mentioned, the more sources of income you have at retirement, the more protected you are at retirement as well. So thank you for that. For us women, we wear a lot of hats. I certainly feel it myself day in, day out. And when you do wear a lot of hats, this is also when life can become a little more complex because it really is that balancing act. And so I know myself, I can identify with all of these, which is carving out time for health and wellness, carving out time to spend with the kids as well as my aging mom, making sure that I'm balancing the career and my family time, making sure I'm involved in activities, whether it's volunteer activities or whether it's being involved in, my kids' activities. And certainly last but not least, it's chunking out that time to spend with friends. And so when it does come to complexity, we live very complex lives. And a lot of it has to do with the number of hats that we wear as women. So this is where question number 3 comes into play. And so what I would like you to do on question number 3 is tick off all that apply to you. So are you a boss, a wife, a mom? a caregiver, friend, or coach. I should say, and coach. Employee, volunteer, and in the other line, you can put whatever you want. I put in chief dog walker, but whatever may pertain to you. And I think you would be surprised at the number of ticks that you have in those boxes. So what I would like you to do is add up those ticks again. And I want you to put up your hand, again, your virtual hand, if you have 6 or more ticks in question number 3. Just looking for all the hands to register here. Yeah, quite a few hands are going up, more than 10. So that is very usual for these sessions, but you do really need to, carve out time for yourself because that is important. And so one of the jobs and one of the hats that I did not talk about was whether or not you are the CFO for your family, the chief financial officer for your family. And so on question number 4, what percentage of women handle the everyday expenses in their family? If you think it's 25 to 45%, circle A. If you think it's 45 to 65%, circle B. 65 to 80% of women handle everyday expenses, circle C. And if you think 100% of women are the chief financial officer for their family, then you're going to want to circle D. And so this is where you get the chance to put up your virtual hand again. We're going to see how many voted for A, B, C, and D. How many circled A? I think I see 2 people circling A. How many people circled B? Oh, we have more. Oh, we have a lot more takers for B. What about C? The same number. Oh, 1 less for C. What about D? Okay, so it looked to me like the B's had it, and it's actually C. So 85% of Canadian women are the ones that handle the everyday expenses as it relates to their family. What I find interesting is only 23% of women actually get involved in the long-term investing and the long-term financial planning with the family. I kind of liken it to being a co-chief executive officer, being the chief executive officer of your family. And why it is so important to get involved in the financial planning and the investments as it relates to your family is something that we see all the time in the bank. Not a day goes by where we don't have somebody, a Mrs. that comes into the bank because she's lost her Mr. And because she hasn't been involved in the planning and the investments, she doesn't know where the investments are. She doesn't know what the investments are. She doesn't know whether she's going to be okay through retirement. So the not knowing adds to the stress of an already very stressful time. And so we always implore couples to have an equal involvement in the financial planning and in the investment side, which is the more sort of long-term piece. So the question then is, well, why is that? Why is it that only 23% of women are involved in the financial planning investments? And this is where question number 5 comes in. Is it because we feel that we know very little about finance and investing? And so what percentage of surveyed Canadian women say they know very little about finance and investing? If you think it's 5 to 20%, circle A. If you think it's 20 to 30%, circle B. If you think it's C, 30 to 50%, circle C. And certainly last but not least, if you think it's more than 50% of women say they know very little about finance and investing, this is where you're going to want to circle D. So like last time, how many of you put your virtual hand up? How many of you circled A? No takers for A. What about B? Oh, we had 1 taker for A. What about B? A couple of takers. What about C? Couple more takers. What about D? Oh, a lot of people. Okay, so it looks like the D's have it on this question. The actual answer is C, 38%. So what's interesting is that 38% of women say they know very little about finance investing, which means that 62% of women feel they know and are quite comfortable with investing and with finance and with financial planning. So it doesn't really answer the question as to why so few of us actually get involved in the investments and the financial planning for the family. In the same survey that was done, I think it's important to note a couple of things. 9 out of every 10 women say that they struggle with one financial issue, and that financial issue, by the way, tends to be debt. So debt tends to be the #1 financial issue for women. And 28% of women say that they need a partner to help them meet ends financially. So this is why the financial plan is so important to have, having a roadmap to make sure that you're achieving your financial affairs. And those that actually do have a financial plan, 81% of them are well on track to meeting their financial obligations. And very specifically, 65% have said that they feel that they can weather tough economic times. So tough economic time would be more longer term than, say, the one beneath it, which is an emergency. An emergency is something has happened. And so 60% of people feel that having that financial plan helps them feel prepared in an emergency. And an example for an emergency would be a couple of years ago, I was actually in this office at Christmas doing some work. And all of a sudden it started to rain through the pot lights in my office. So I knew we had a leak in our roof, and a pretty bad leak with the amount of water that was coming through. And so it's tough enough to get a roofer to come, let alone at Christmas time. So that would definitely be deemed an emergency, whereas a tough economic time would be like last year, you know, with COVID and kind of the heyday of COVID. And usually our rule of thumb, by the way, is for an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses set aside for that rainy day. And a fun fact for you, I don't know if you're aware, but after the credit crisis in 2008, which, by the way, Canada actually weathered very well, particularly in comparison to the rest of the Western countries, the Canadian government, on reflection of the economic crisis, recognized, or the credit crisis, recognized that Canadians were actually not well prepared from an emergency fund perspective. And that's why they created the tax-free savings account. They created the tax-free savings account in 2009 to incent us Canadians to put money away in a tax-free vehicle for that rainy day. So as I say, a bit of a fun fact as to why the tax-free savings account came about. And as I say, it was to encourage us to put money away for a rainy day. And so, you know, part of this same survey, 50% of Canadians feel that they're on track for retirement when they've got the financial plan. A couple of other stats that didn't make this slide, but I think are really important to understand why financial plans are important. #1, people with financial plans, 62% of people feel that they've become better savers. So when we talk about goals in a couple of minutes, we talk about prioritizing goals because it's really tough to achieve everything. So we need to figure out what's most important to you. But if you have a financial plan and you become a better saver, then you're actually able to achieve more of the goals that you have. 73% of people who took this survey said that they feel more confident that their loved ones would be financially looked after should something perilous happen to them, because they actually have planned things out. So a financial plan on many different fronts is incredibly important to have. And so because it is important, I think it stands to reason why we put this question in here. And this is question number 6. What percentage of women do not have a financial plan? If you think it's 10 to 20%, circle A. If you think it's 20 to 40%, circle B. If you think it's 40 to 50% of women do not have a financial plan, circle C. And if you think it's over 50% of women don't have a financial plan, this is where you circle D. So again, this is your chance to virtually vote. How many of you picked A? Put your virtual hands up. No takers. What about B? How many of you thought it was 20 to 40%? So we have one taker at B. What about C, 40 to 50% of people? Okay, so we have a lot of takers for C. And last but not least, D, over 50% of women do not have a financial plan. So less. So it looked like there was the most hands for C. The 3 hands that were up for D are correct. So 56% of women do not have a financial plan. You know, I'm going to look at this glass half full here, and that means 44% of women do have a written financial plan. For those of you that don't have a financial plan, you know, remember the financial plan helps you, you know, control your finances. It gives you the roadmap for your goals. It helps weather the downturn. It helps protect you in an emergency, and it also helps protect your family if something perilous should happen. So lots of good reasons to have a financial plan if you're one of the 56% of women that do not have a financial plan. And so, you know, I've talked a little bit about goals through this session, and when it comes to the financial planning process, I would say this is the most important piece when it comes to a financial planner discussing and starting off that conversation with you. And so when you turn over to the next page for your in your worksheet, there's a 7A and a 7B. The 7A are the personal goals, and the 7B are the business goals. But just to give you some ideas on what some goals could be, maybe one of your current priorities is to reduce your debt. Maybe you're feeling that you have a lot of debt, and so maybe what you're looking to do is exonerate some of your debt and look after some of your debt. Maybe you have a family goal. So maybe like the picture suggests, you know, you've got kids and you want to start an education fund to help fund your child's post-secondary education. Maybe you're like me and my husband. You know, our number one priority is retirement. We're both from the Okanagan. We would love to move back to the Okanagan in retirement. So for the last 2 years, we've been looking for a retirement property up in the Okanagan. So that's definitely our number one. Maybe you've got a lifestyle goal. I mean, we've all been locked up for a year and a half in COVID, and things are just starting to open up. I heard this morning that the US border is opening to those that are vaccinated. So maybe your priority, because you haven't seen family for a long time, is to take a big family vacation. Maybe a goal of yours is something home related. I hear that home renovations are through the roof. And certainly, last but not least, is your business. Maybe you're looking to expand your business. Maybe you're looking to hire more staff, although watching the news, it looks like it's very tough to hire staff in this day and age. And maybe you're looking to bring out a new product or a new service. And so what I would like you to do is take maybe, say, 30 seconds and write down your 3 positive or your 3 personal goals, but also write down your 3 business goals. And don't worry, I won't get you to share what those goals are. This is for you. So just as I say, take a few seconds to do that. Okay. And so, you know, I mentioned that the goal part is probably the most important part when it comes to building a financial plan. And if you've never been through the financial planning process, doesn't matter which financial institution you go to get a financial plan, the experience that you would have would be the same. So the first thing that we do, and I'm going to say we as in the global we as a financial planner, myself, but we do look to understand you. So we want to know where you are today, what your goals are, where you want to be in the future, what you've done to get yourself from point A to point B. Once we've collected all that information, we then actually develop the financial plan, and then we get you back in to be able to refine the action plan. Like, what is it that you really need to do? And I say that because, you know, when we put our financial planner hat on and look at the plan that we've built, which has been derived from the information we get from you, sometimes we're the bearer of good news and sometimes we are the bearer of bad news. So the good news could be, wow, you've done a fantastic job saving for retirement. In fact, so much so You don't need to make contributions to your retirement funds anymore. We can actually conservatize your portfolio. You don't need to take as much risk in your retirement portfolio anymore. In fact, you can retire at age 60, not 65. And if none of those are palatable to you, then we just tell you, you know what, you're going to have a lot more money to retire on than you were expecting. Sometimes it's the converse. Sometimes we're the bearer of bad news and say, you know what, we can't get you from point A to point B with what your retirement goal is, but here are some options. We can either move you from a conservative portfolio to a balanced portfolio. So pick up the return in your portfolio so your investments are working harder for you. Or we tell you that you're going to need to make $500 in contributions to your retirement fund every month rather than 250, say, for an example. And sometimes we tell people, all else being equal, then you might need to retire at 67 versus 65. And if none of those are palatable, then it means that you'll have less at retirement than you were planning. And so it's not for us to decide which one is best for you. What we do is we present you with the options based on the plan that we've built. We refine the action plan, and then on at least an annual basis, we go back and we make sure that the plan still works for you. So we would get you in. Sometimes if you've had a material change in that year, we will get you back in to check your financial plan. So I always say a material change in your life is something that's notable: a birth, a death, a change in job. Maybe you've decided to sell your house. So something that's big in your life that you would typically share with friends and family. I just want to take a minute and talk about retirement. I've built a lot of financial plans over the last 30 years. And what I find is when I sit down with a client, when you ask them about retirement, they talk about traveling more, golfing more, spending more time with grandkids, picking up a hobby. There's actually 3 distinct stages of retirement. There's the go-go stage, the slow-go stage, and the no-go stage. And so it's equally important to talk about all 3 stages in retirement, not just the go-go stage, which is typically what we envision our retirement to be. So that go-go stage is exactly as I just described, what we automatically envision retirement to be. The slow-go stage is usually about 10 years into retirement, so maybe mid-70s, when you start having health issues. And so it's not that your retirement becomes any less robust, it just looks a little different. And the example I give is my mom. When she was in her mid-70s, she was diagnosed with COPD and asthma, and she was also diagnosed with arthritis in her knees. She was an avid golfer. She used to golf year round, but she no longer could golf year round because she needed to take a cart. She used to walk the course. That's also how she got her exercise. And if you are a golfer, in Vancouver, there's very few courses that allow carts out in the fall and winter because with our rain, it rips up the grass. And so she went from golfing year round to only golfing in the spring and the summer. And she started going to seniors exercise at the senior center in the fall and winter. So still getting her exercise, it just looks a little different. And by going to the senior center, she made a lot of great friends. And being 84 today, she still has a lot of those great friends in her life. That although with COVID, they're not doing seniors exercise right now, but up into COVID, she was still doing seniors exercise with these same ladies. With the COPD and asthma, she used to travel a lot. In fact, I used to have to keep track of where she was in my Outlook calendar. One day she'd be in the Amazon, the next day she'd be on the Great Wall of China. And with her COPD and asthma, she became quite concerned about health systems. And so she didn't want to go to countries where she felt that their healthcare system wasn't like Canada's. So she recalibrated where she was traveling. So she would go to Iceland, she would go to Australia, places where she felt if anything happened with her health-wise, she was actually going to be able to get help. So she's still leading a very robust retirement. It just looked a little different from what she planned in the go-go stage. The last stage of retirement, which is typically the most expensive stage of retirement, by the way, is the no-go stage. And this is where there's significant health issues, where typically you need some kind of assisted living, whether it's coming into the home or whether it's going to some kind of retirement facility. So you will normally see in a financial plan that there's 3 lines in it to earmark all 3 stages of retirement. And so I bring that up, as I say, as something that I've run into as a financial planner over the years when we've been having that retirement conversation. And so, from a succession plan standpoint, we talked a little bit about a succession plan. It's important to have one, understand what it is that you want to do at retirement with your business. A couple of the pitfalls we talked about, if you were looking to transfer it to family or friends or looking to actually sell it. But this slide here, I think, is incredibly important because what it tells you is that 92% of business owners do not have a succession plan. And it's incredibly important as a business owner that you have a succession plan. So what I'd like you to do is in question 7B, in the business section for goals, if you do not have a succession plan and you did not write in succession plan, I'd like you to write in and capture succession plan. And equally important as a business owner to having a succession plan is making sure on the personal side that you have an estate plan. And an estate plan is, do you have a will that's up to date? Do you have a power of attorney that's up to date? If you have minor children, is that articulated? Who is going to be the guardian if something should happen to you and your partner? Is it articulated in the will who is going to raise your children? We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides. But, first things first, in question number 8, how many adult Canadians do not have an estate plan? If you think it's 10 to 20%, circle A. If you think it's 20 to 40%, circle B. If you think it's 40 to 50, circle C. And if you think it's over 50% of Canadians do not have an estate plan, this is where I want you to circle D. And so again, this is your chance to use the virtual vote button. How many of you said A? So no takers with A. What about B? We've got a few takers at B. What about C? How many think 40 to 50%? So an equal number of people with C and B. And last but not least, how many think more than 50% of Canadians do not have an estate plan? So there was the most hands for D, and the Ds actually have it. So 51% or over 50% of Canadians do not have an estate plan. And I would say that even of the 49% that do have an estate plan, my experience being a financial planner is that the will is often out of date. The attorney for the power of attorney no longer lives in fairly close proximity to the individual. So the powers of attorney are out of date. So, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, it's not just about having the estate plan, but it's about having an up-to-date estate plan. And a bit of a sad story to underscore the importance of this. Last Christmas, one of our Fraser Valley branches referred a client to us to do a financial plan. And it was a Mr. and a Mrs. With 2 teenage boys, 13 and 15. And so we went through the understand phase or the discovery stage, and the investment specialist found out that there was no will, no power of attorney, and so there was no written guardianship for the minor children. So as they were navigating through the action plan stage, and again, this is just before Christmas, the couple acknowledged, this has been on the radar. They know they need to go to a family lawyer to get wills, get powers of attorney, get a guardian for the kids and have that conversation. And so they said, well, we'll just get through Christmas, and we promise, we'll do it after Christmas. So our investment specialist goes away on vacation, comes back, is going through his emails or going through his voicemails in January, and there's a voicemail from the missus. The Mr. actually contracted COVID over Christmas, ended up in the hospital and passing away. And so, here she is now, navigating through the death of her husband, who was in his mid-40s. And the husband has now died intestate because there's no wills. Obviously, from a guardian perspective, that really didn't enter into the equation. But what was already an incredibly sad, stressful situation was now even more stressful. And she was asking for help to navigate through this. So, as I say, incredibly important to have not only that estate plan, but making sure that that estate plan is up to date, because while I tell you that one story, there's many stories I could share with you that we've experienced in the bank that relate to not being prepared on the estate side. And so in question 7A, much like I asked you in 7B, if you don't have an estate plan, will, power of attorney, guardianship for your minor children, or if you haven't looked at that in a while, if you can please put estate plan on your question 7A, and please capture that. From a will perspective, if you die without a will, it's called dying intestate, which means that the government will then decide what happens to your assets. And I don't think any of us want the government deciding what's happening to our assets. So protect yourself on that. From a power of attorney perspective, there's 3 types of powers of attorney. There is an enduring power of attorney, which is for somebody that doesn't have capacity. So somebody that might be extremely ill, maybe in a coma in the hospital, and not able to remotely look after their affairs or give direction. That would be somebody that doesn't have capacity. And so that's an enduring power of attorney. There's also a general power of attorney for somebody that has capacity. So an example would be maybe somebody that's going on a year-long trip around the world and wants somebody to look after their affairs while they're gone. Those 2 types of attorneys, the enduring and the regular, are done through a family lawyer, exactly like where you would get a will done. The 3rd type of power of attorney is through your financial institution. Whether you're Scotia, Royal, Van City, we have our own internal document. The downside of that, though, is that it only relates to that one financial institution. My recommendation is to go to a family lawyer and get overarching power of attorney. And, last but not least is the guardianship. You want to make sure that if you do have minor children, if anything should happen to you and your partner, that somebody is going to raise your children that you trust. Because again, if you don't put in for guardianship, it means that when you and your spouse or your partner are gone, it means that somebody can petition the court to actually become the guardian for your children until they hit 19 years of age here in British Columbia. And again, I don't think we want the court deciding who is going to raise children. So I always like to talk about the estate planning because it is so important. And in my experience, people are so ill prepared on the estate side. From a financial planning perspective, I talked about the process, what the process looks like, but what are the actual components of the financial plan? We always start with cash flow. What's coming in, what's going out, what's left over that we can work with to help you achieve your goals. I've already talked about estate and the importance of that, and the importance of going to a family lawyer and getting yourself an estate plan or updating it. The other thing that we like to have a conversation with you about is how you've protected your assets and how you've protected your income should something happen to you. That would be going to an insurance company to do that, but we can identify that there's a need. And again, I'm using the global we as in a financial planner. We have clients that share with us that they want to buy or sell real estate, and obviously that has an impact on the financial plan, but you would still go to a realtor for that. We always highly recommend having an accountant because there are certain strategies that we will recommend on the investment side that will potentially have tax consequences. We want to make sure that you're going to go to your accountant to make sure that is the right thing for you given your particular tax situation. And I mentioned earlier in the goals, some people are concerned about their level of debt. So we'll take a look at the borrowing. Is there some way to consolidate or to reduce your payment in your debt? And we'll also take a look at your goals. I've already articulated the retirement here as one of the goals, but we've talked about kids' education. We've talked about, major purchase like buying a place. We've also talked about the importance of an emergency fund. So again, we navigate through those goals, and obviously the output is the investment. So this is how much you need for all these goals. And then we need to get you from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. So it is a multifaceted process. And it will usually involve other experts in the financial planning field as well to execute the financial plan. This is my favorite question of all the questions, and that is there a gender gap investing? So do women outperform men, or do men outperform women when it actually comes to investing? So on average, and this is question number 9, on average, what is the performance difference between men and women? Is it A, no difference? Is it B, so circle if you think that women outperform men 1 to 5%. If you think that men outperform 1 to 5%, then circle C. And if you think men really outperform women, then you're going to want to circle D. So how many of you, again with the virtual hand, how many of you said A, there's no difference between men and women when it comes to investing? We've got one taker. What about B? How many of you think that women outperform men? No one. Interesting. How many say C, that men outperform 1 to 5? Okay, we have a few more takers. And then what about D? Men really outperform women. Interesting. Okay, so actually, there was the most hands for D. And this is why it's my favorite question, because women outperform men when it comes to investing. And so if you think about it, you know, way back at the beginning of the workshop, I said only 23% of women actually get involved in the financial planning and investments. Was it because they knew very little about investing and planning? And we learned that that wasn't the case, because 63% of women feel very comfortable when it comes to investing and planning. So here's another reason why women should be involved in the investment and the planning, is because we tend to do a better job when it comes to investing. And so peeling away the layers of the onion here a bit on the why is it that women tend to outperform men? And there's 3 reasons. Number 1, women are less speculative when it comes to investing. So, you know, we in the family work hard for the money, so we want to make sure that we are investing wisely. Number 2, believe it or not, we are less emotional when it comes to investing. We are much more apt to make sound investment decisions. And last but not least, we are less swayed by rumor. We are more swayed by fact. So there's 3 very distinctive reasons why women actually are better investors than men. And so the last question of the morning here, and, you know, I think this is where these 2 commercials that I see on TV come into play. There's one commercial where I think it's Questrade, and there's a fellow that's just bought an apartment, and he's got a friend that's sitting on the couch, and they're talking about how he bought the apartment, and he made a comment about how he was going to Questrade because the fees were lower. And then he looked at his friend and he said, "You're not still investing with mom and dad's advisor, are you?" And then on the flip side, I think it's the Royal Bank that has the commercial where there's a couple sitting on the couch and there's a laptop, and the mister looks over into the laptop and said, "Wow, your investments are performing better than mine." And she said, "Yeah, my advisor tells me it's not just about the fees." And so here's the thing. If you are comfortable investing, you've got the time, you've got the knowledge, and then by all means, be a do-it-yourself investor on a discount brokerage platform. For sure, the fees are lower. But if you don't have the time, or if you don't feel that you have the expertise, then is it that working with an advisor is going to have a positive impact on the returns, and thus is the fees actually worth it? So last question of the day, question number 10, do you believe that the advisor has a positive impact on managing your investment assets? If you think that there's no difference using an advisor, circle A. If you think it's 2 times more, that the advisor is going to make 2 times more wealth for you, circle B. If you think that the advisor is actually going to be a detriment to your investment assets and you're actually going to lose wealth, circle C. And if you think that in actual fact the advisor is going to make 4 times more wealth for you, then circle D. And so last chance of the day to use your virtual hand. How many said A, no difference? So we had no one. B, how many say that the advisor makes 2 times more wealth? So we have about, looks like 5 people. What about 2 times less wealth? So we have 1 person, okay. And last but not least, 4 times more wealth. How many of you picked D? I think we've got a couple of takers. So the most was B. The actual answer is D, 4 times more wealth. Working with an advisor can actually be really helpful for you. And a lot of it has to do with building the financial plan, having the roadmap. And I would also say, talking you down off the ledge, because last year in April and beginning of May, we had a lot of people concerned about what was going on in the markets. And we were able to pull out the financial plan and say, has anything changed? Markets will always have gyrations and go up and down, but over time, they will go up. And so what's important is to stick to the plan, even when the markets are gyrating. So we spent a lot of time on the phone in April and May last year, making sure that nothing had changed in people's plans, and to trust us to stay the course. And obviously, it was the right decision to stay the course. So here's my ask of you, because I know we've hit 11 o'clock and I do want to have some time for questions and answers. You know, we've navigated through the worksheet. We've talked about the importance of a succession plan, an estate plan, having a financial plan that's grounded in your goals. You've now got this worksheet. What I would like you to do is make sure that you contact your advisor either by email or by phone today. Do something with this worksheet, because it is so important that you do something with the worksheet. And you either get going on a financial plan and a succession plan and an estate plan, or you revise your financial plan, your succession plan, and your estate plan. And to say, that is the template that you can take in to your advisor to get going on that. So with that, please feel free to take yourself off mute. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hi, Trish. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
An echo. It's a really good, informative, very enlightening. Actually, there was a couple things there that I scored differently than what the actual answers were. So that was good to learn something. I just want to go back. You had mentioned one of the areas that you said women tend to struggle with in their finances is debt and how to manage their debts. Can you speak a little bit more to that and what you see as a possible solution to that?
Yeah, you know, not all debt is created equal. And so often, and again, I'm going from my own experience, often when I see that there's debt challenges, it's not almost, but it's almost always consumer debt. And so consumer debt that's being carried on credit cards, which will carry an interest rate of 19, 20, 21%. So it's about doing two things. It's about, you know, figuring out how the spending got to the way it is, and maybe curtailing the spending and really working with the cash flow and the budget. And then the other part is looking at ways to, you know, use other sources of debt. So doing a debt consolidation loan, which will have, you know, a quarter of the interest rate, and moving that debt into something that has a lower interest rate. So kind of tackling it from both sides. Why is the debt there? So let's budget and do cash flow. And then let's look for a way to reduce the debt payment by looking at other debt vehicles. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm in the debt space, of course. We're licensed insolvency trustees, and I think there's just so much confusion out there with what's right, what's the right solution, how do I, and a big thing is the stigma, the shame and stigma around talking about our debt, right? So I think it's really important to get that conversation started, even like just sharing your stat that this is something that women struggle with, I think can just help us all feel normal if we've ever struggled with debt. And I'd be hard pressed to find anyone who hasn't, I think. And then just being able to normalize this conversation and making sure that the resources are readily available and talked about, I think is really key. And as women, we're so good at that. We're good at talking. We're good at connecting with one another and, you know, referring one another. So I think that really that is something we women can champion and totally take control over.
And I would completely agree with you with the stigma, because, you know, when people have shared with me their debt challenges, they do it in a shameful way. You know, they feel shame for having the debt at the level that it's at, and they shouldn't feel shame. You know, it is what it is. It's, you know, put a stake in the ground and let's move forward, figure out the why, and then figure out how we can make it better. Thank you. Great question. What other questions do you have that I can help you with? Okay, well, it looks like I answered all your questions. I hope you enjoyed the session. As I say, I implore you to do something with your worksheet. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Iman.
Perfect. Thank you, Trish. And wow, what an amazing conversation. And thank you, Trish, for leading this conversation. It is my first time sitting with Trish, through this workshop. And I myself have a page full of notes. But what really stood out to me is the importance of acting and planning today rather than tomorrow. And I hope every single one of you had your own aha moments that you were able to take away from our conversation and workshop, which will align with yourselves and your respective businesses. I do want to thank everyone on this call for your time, engagement, and participation to really make this workshop a success. Thank you, Corey, Eilette, and the Burnaby Board of Trade team for helping us put this together and really get in front of these amazing group of women leaders that we've had a chance to have a conversation with.